Fly Isolia talked tough, then folded the second Tony Castellanos made a move on him. Two pranksters abandoned a lifter mid-bench with 300 pounds on his chest for a $1,000 joke, and an internet troll actually showed up to fight a bodybuilder. These are 10 dumb regular guys who messed with bodybuilders, starting with Island Boy versus Tony Castellanos. Let's kick things off with a confrontation that perfectly encapsulates the disconnect between internet tough guy talk and real-world consequences. Fly Isolia, one half of the viral rap duo known as the Island Boys, real name Alex Venegas, found himself in what can only be described as an incredibly uncomfortable situation after running his mouth about the wrong person. Now, for those unfamiliar with this particular corner of influencer culture, Fly Isolia had built quite a reputation for himself. With his heavily tattooed body, eccentric personality, and controversial social media presence, he had cultivated an image of someone who simply didn't care what anybody thought. During a live stream session, feeling particularly bold that day, he began calling out Tony Alejandro Castellanos, a reality TV personality and prominent bodybuilder who carries around approximately 260 pounds of muscle.
No, don't do anything stupid. Don't do anything stupid.
Listen, I'm gonna spare you. But the fact that you said I'm not physio exactly, you said when you said that, I know.
Fly Isolia claimed he could take on Castellanos in a fight, boasting about his street credentials and dismissing the bodybuilder's massive size as completely irrelevant. This was part of a broader trend in influencer culture where smaller creators challenge larger ones for clout, often without any consideration of what might happen if that challenge were actually accepted. He was talking big game, dismissing Castellanos' physique as nothing more than show muscles that wouldn't translate into actual fighting ability. Well, Tony Castellanos heard about this call out through social media, and rather than engaging in the typical back and forth exchange of insults online, he decided to handle things the old-fashioned way. He showed up in person, approaching Fly Isolia directly at the location where he was streaming. The approach was calm but carried an undeniable weight of intimidation that immediately shifted the energy in the room. The moment Castellanos got close, described in accounts as a composed but threatening advance, Fly Isolia's entire demeanor transformed completely.
Wait, Tony, don't hit him first. Don't hit him.
Castellanos lightly pushed him on the shoulder, and Fly Isolia immediately backed down, starting to stutter, making excuses and showing visible signs of fear, including wide eyes and retreating steps. Not a single punch was thrown. Fly Isolia folded without any physical escalation whatsoever, essentially admitting defeat through nothing more than his body language and verbal retreat. While Fly Isolia's confrontation ended without any physical contact, this next incident involves pranksters who put a bodybuilder's life in genuine danger. Gym pranksters abandon bodybuilder mid-bench. This next incident involves what can only be described as one of the most dangerous and reckless pranks ever attempted in a gym setting, crossing every conceivable line between humor and potentially fatal consequences. On August 9th, 2024, YouTube pranksters Luke and Silas Bucher from the channel Bucher Twins entered a gym and approached a large muscular bodybuilder who was in the middle of his workout. Their proposition seemed straightforward enough on the surface. They offered the bodybuilder $1,000 if he could successfully bench press his maximum weight, with them acting as spotters to assist if needed.
Basically, we're just going up to people and we're encouraging them to do the max. Yeah. If you can hit your max, we'll give you $1,000. Yeah.
The bodybuilder, understandably excited by both the challenge and the substantial cash incentive, agreed to participate and loaded the bar with heavy plates, estimated to be around 300 to 400 pounds or more given his impressive build and the visible strain during the lift. Here's where things took a potentially life-threatening turn that nobody could have anticipated. As the bodybuilder lay down on the bench, unracked the bar, and lowered it to his chest, he began the upward press with maximum effort. At the sticking point, where he was struggling to push the weight back up and needed assistance the most, the Bucher brothers suddenly walked away, abandoning him mid-lift.
Up.
The barbell remained pressed against his chest, pinning him down and putting him in serious danger. For those who don't understand the severity, bench press failures without spotters can lead to crushed chests, broken ribs, or even asphyxiation if the weight is heavy enough to restrict breathing. The bodybuilder panicked, initially smirking, thinking it was a joke, but quickly realizing the genuine risk as he couldn't re-rack the bar alone. Fortunately, another gym goer noticed the dire situation and rushed over to help lift the bar back onto the rack, preventing what could have been a catastrophic injury or worse. Once free, the furious bodybuilder stood up and immediately confronted the pranksters with righteous anger. He charged at Luke Bucher, pushing him hard enough to knock him to the floor. Luke laughed nervously and responded that he wasn't going to get those $1,000. Silas quickly intervened, yelling that it was just a prank while pointing to the hidden camera, as if that somehow excused endangering someone's life. While these pranksters endangered one bodybuilder for views, this next confrontation features someone who deliberately provoked an entire group of them. camera guy provokes group of bodybuilders. In early January 2025, a confrontation unfolded at a gym in Wynwood, Miami that would result in serious injuries, legal action, and millions of views across social media platforms. Wes Watson, a controversial fitness influencer, motivational speaker, and ex-convict known for his raw, prison-inspired workout content and alpha male persona, was training with his associates when a man named John Bravo decided to pay him an uninvited visit. Bravo, a YouTuber and investigator known for exposing steroid use in bodybuilding, entered the gym with the explicit intent to confront Watson. He had been researching and producing content accusing Watson of hypocrisy, particularly regarding his claims of being natural while allegedly using performance-enhancing drugs. This wasn't a spontaneous encounter, it was a calculated provocation designed to generate content and expose what Bravo believed were lies. To capture the encounter perfectly, Bravo strategically set up a hidden camera on a tripod, angling it toward the bench press area where Watson was working out, ensuring the footage would record every moment of the anticipated reaction. Dressed casually and appearing as a regular guy without any notable muscular build, Bravo approached Watson directly and initiated aggressive trash talk, calling him out on his alleged lies about drug use, his prison stories, and his overall persona. The antagonism was deliberate and relentless. Bravo was yelling accusations, questioning Watson's authenticity, and demanding answers, all aimed at provoking a response for his YouTube channel. Watson's reaction was swift, aggressive, and overwhelming. Feeling disrespected in his territory, he and 3 associates surrounded Bravo in what later legal filings described as a 4-on-1 assault. The footage shows Watson grabbing Bravo, throwing punches, and overwhelming him with strikes while the group joined in, pinning him down and continuing the beatdown on the gym floor. Bravo was punched multiple times in the face and body, subdued quickly due to the massive size and number disparity. He was absolutely no match for the muscular group surrounding him. The footage leaked online via Bravo's channel and other sources, going viral with millions of views across YouTube, TikTok, and Reddit. It sparked intense debate online, with some viewers condemning Watson as a bully, while others argued Bravo instigated the fight by showing up uninvited and filming without consent. While Bravo walked into a gym full of bodybuilders looking for trouble, this next challenger barged into a martial arts academy demanding to fight anyone who would accept. Angry dude challenges gym instructor. Around October 2022, a self-proclaimed tough guy walked into a Brazilian Jiu-jitsu academy and made what would turn out to be one of the worst decisions of his entire life, a decision he would regret not once, not twice, but 3 separate times in the span of 15 minutes. The gym instructor, a black belt BJJ professor who served as head coach, was a muscular, bodybuilder-like figure weighing around 200 to 220 pounds with visible definition from years of combining grappling with serious strength training. The challenger, appearing as an average, non-athletic regulars, standing around 5 feet 10 inches and weighing 180 pounds, dressed in street clothes like jeans and a t-shirt, entered the gym in an irate state, yelling profanities and demanding to fight the best guy there. He boasted extensively about his street fighting experience, dismissing BJJ as fake or ineffective against real-world combat, and escalated the situation by shoving first, turning what started as a verbal challenge into a physical confrontation that disrupted the entire class. The instructor, initially trying to de-escalate the situation by talking calmly and asking the man to leave peacefully, had no choice but to engage when the challenger persisted with his aggressive behavior. In the first exchange, the instructor quickly took him down using basic BJJ techniques, mounting him and applying a rear naked choke that put the guy to sleep within seconds. The class watched as the challenger tapped frantically but was held briefly to emphasize the lesson, waking up disoriented and thoroughly humiliated on the mat. But here's where the story gets truly remarkable and almost unbelievable. Upon waking up confused and embarrassed, the challenger did not learn his lesson whatsoever. Undeterred and somehow even angrier than before, he got up, refused to back down, and challenged the instructor again. This led to a second chokeout where he was pinned face down and submitted once more, losing consciousness for the second time in minutes. Still refusing to accept the reality of his situation, the challenger then pointed at a teenage student, one of the kids in the class around 16 to 18 years old but trained extensively in BJJ, and challenged him too, claiming even the kid couldn't beat him. The instructor allowed it under controlled conditions, and the young student promptly took the challenger down, mounted him, and applied another choke, putting him to sleep for the 3rd time. While this challenger at least had the courage to show up in person, this next self-proclaimed street fighter barged into an MMA gym, convinced his real-world experience trumped any formal training. Street fighter barges into gym. This incident, dating back to around 2015 but gaining renewed traction in late 2025 through TikTok and YouTube shares, involves a self-proclaimed undefeated street fighter who decided to prove once and for all that street fighting was superior to gym training. Spoiler alert, the results were not what he anticipated, and the footage has haunted him across the internet for nearly a decade. The challenger was an average-built regular guy in his mid-20s, standing around 5 feet 10 inches and weighing approximately 170 pounds, with no visible professional training markers like cauliflower ears or the confident stance of someone who actually knows how to fight. He barged into an MMA gym completely unannounced, exuding dangerous overconfidence from what he claimed were numerous street wins against random opponents in bars, parks, and alleys. His motivation seemed rooted in pure ego and a desperate desire for clout, dismissing gym-trained fighters as fake or overly reliant on rules that wouldn't apply in real situations. Upon entering and disrupting the training session, he immediately started trash-talking the gym's residents, pointing directly at the largest, most muscular individual present, a bodybuilder turned MMA enthusiast who doubled as a coach, standing over 6 feet 2 inches and carrying 220+ pounds of lean functional muscle from years of dedicated weightlifting and sparring. The challenger demanded a no-rules fight to prove that street beats gym every single time, boasting phrases about knocking out bigger guys and claiming these gym rats had never witnessed real fighting in their sheltered lives. The gym owner, sensing potential content and an opportunity to teach a valuable lesson, allowed the challenge under controlled conditions with cameras rolling for safety and posterity. The street fighter agreed enthusiastically, stripping down to his undershirt and adopting a wild, unorthodox stance reminiscent of chaotic bar brawls. Wide telegraphed swings, absolutely no guard protecting his face, and lots of aggressive yelling meant to intimidate. The fight began with the challenger rushing in aggressively, throwing haymaker punches that missed wildly due to poor technique and obvious telegraphing that any trained fighter could read from a mile away. The bodybuilder stayed composed, using basic footwork to evade effortlessly, then countered with a clinch and took the fight to the ground where his size and grappling skills absolutely shone. While this street fighter thought his brawling experience would be enough, this next confrontation features a drunk man who picked a fight with someone far more dangerous than he appeared. Drunk guy at restaurant challenges bodybuilder. The infamous Serra restaurant incident occurred on July 4th, 2018, at the Yard House restaurant inside the Red Rock Resort and Casino in Las Vegas, Nevada, during UFC International Fight Week, a bustling time filled with fighters, fans, and events surrounding UFC 226. Serra, a UFC Hall of Famer and former welterweight champion who was being inducted into the Hall of Fame that very week, was dining with friends after a long and celebratory day. Looking forward to a peaceful meal, Serra stood about 5 feet 6 inches but carried a stocky, muscular build of around 185 pounds, honed from decades of Brazilian Jiu-jitsu, wrestling, and MMA training at the highest levels of competition. Often described as a bodybuilder-like strongman due to his powerful physique and incredible strength feats, like manhandling opponents much larger than himself, Serra had built a reputation that extended far beyond his compact frame. Known for his Long Island accent, quick wit, and absolutely no-nonsense attitude, Serra ran successful BJJ academies and appeared regularly on podcasts, but this particular night would turn him into a viral hero for demonstrating both remarkable restraint and undeniable skill. Enter the antagonist of this story, an intoxicated patron in his 30s or 40s, appearing as a typical overweight regular guy who had been drinking heavily at the bar for quite some time. Witnesses, including Serra himself in later interviews, described the man as belligerent and extremely disruptive, harassing waitstaff, yelling obscenities at servers, throwing items across the restaurant, and threatening physical violence toward anyone who dared ask him to calm down or leave the establishment. The situation escalated dramatically when the drunk guy spotted Serra's group and randomly decided to challenge him, perhaps recognizing him as a fighter or simply picking on someone who appeared smaller in stature. Slurring his words and asking if Serra thought he was tough, he approached aggressively, invading personal space and attempting to shove or grab Serra, while demanding they take things outside. Serra, initially trying to de-escalate by talking calmly and telling the man it wasn't worth it, had no choice but to act when the drunk persisted and actually swung at him. Using his black belt BJJ expertise, Serra effortlessly took the guy down with a textbook double leg takedown, mounted him on the restaurant floor and applied a controlling hold, essentially pinning him face down with knee-on belly pressure and precise arm control, all without throwing a single punch or causing unnecessary harm. The drunk flailed and struggled futilely against the superior technique while Serra held him subdued for about a minute until casino security arrived, calmly repeating instructions to settle down. While Serra demonstrated professional restraint against a drunk stranger, this next confrontation features a boxing coach who had to teach a troubled young man a painful lesson in humility. Troubled Kid Challenges. Gym Bodybuilder. This viral incident took place at Elite Boxing Gym in an urban US location around 2021, but resurfacing in popularity through TikTok and YouTube compilations in 2025, where a young man with more attitude than sense decided to test his mettle against a professional boxing coach. The Troubled Kid was a young man in his late teens or early 20s, appearing as a slim, non-athletic regular with a street-tough attitude, dressed in baggy clothes, a backwards cap, and sneakers, exuding cockiness from what seemed like a background of street treat altercations or unresolved personal frustrations seeking an outlet. He barged into the gym during an active training session, interrupting classes and aggressively demanding to fight the best guy there, pointing directly at the head coach and yelling profanities. His behavior was immediately disruptive and disrespectful, shoving equipment around and trash-talking students who were just trying to train, clearly aiming to prove his dominance and validate his self-image without possessing any formal training or understanding of what he was walking into. The head coach, often referred to as Coach James in various clips documenting this encounter, was a muscular, imposing figure in his 30s or 40s with a genuine bodybuilder physique, broad shoulders, ripped arms, and around 200 pounds of functional muscle built from years of boxing, weightlifting, and coaching others. Known throughout the community for his disciplined approach and unwavering emphasis on respect within the sport, Coach James initially tried to de-escalate the volatile situation, calmly asking the kid to leave peacefully or channel his energy by joining a proper class. But when the kid persisted with his aggression, swinging wildly and actually landing a glancing blow, the coach agreed to a controlled spar to teach an unforgettable lesson. The confrontation unfolded on the gym mats in front of a small crowd of students who watched intently. Coach James allowed the kid to throw the first punches, dodging most with expert footwork and head movement while the kid flailed aggressively but completely ineffectively, gassing out quickly from poor conditioning and wasted energy. Then, the coach countered with a measured barrage of controlled strikes, precise jabs, hooks to the body, and light headshots, landing around 30 hits in rapid succession over a minute or two. Each strike was carefully calibrated to sting without causing serious injury, focusing primarily on body shots that left the kid doubled over and wheezing for air. While this troubled kid at least showed up in person to back his words, this next story features an internet troll who surprised everyone by actually accepting a UFC fighter's invitation to spar. Online troll shows up to gym. In December 2022, something genuinely remarkable and unexpected happened at Next Generation MMA Gym in Liverpool, England. An internet troll who had been leaving inflammatory comments on Paddy Pimblett's social media accounts actually accepted the UFC fighter's public invitation to show up and back his words with action, something that virtually never happens in the world of online trash talk. Paddy the Baddy Pimblett, a UFC lightweight fighter with a charismatic personality and impressive physique, standing around 5 feet 10 inches and 170 pounds of muscle during training camp, had been dealing with persistent online harassment from trolls mocking his weight fluctuations between fights, his fighting style, and various aspects of his personal life. One particular troll had been especially persistent, leaving comment after comment boasting about how he'd absolutely destroy Paddy in a real fight, and questioning whether the UFC fighter was actually as tough as his record suggested. Tired of the endless virtual bravado from people who would never face consequences for their words, Paddy publicly invited the troll to the gym for an actual spar, offering 500 pounds if he could last a single round, and emphasizing it was a legitimate chance to back up all that talk. To everyone's genuine surprise, the troll accepted the challenge and actually traveled to Liverpool to face Paddy in person. The troll was an average-built regular guy in his 20s or 30s, visibly non-athletic and somewhat overweight, dressed in casual tracksuit gear that suggested he hadn't spent much time in any gym. He admitted to having some basic training years ago and watching YouTube tutorials on fighting techniques, but nothing that could remotely be considered professional preparation. Upon arrival at the gym, he appeared noticeably nervous, but tried desperately to maintain his online confidence, chatting with Paddy about getting photos and expressing surreal excitement about the situation he'd gotten himself into. The session was set up in the cage with gloves, under controlled rules designed to prevent serious injury, light sparring, no full knockouts, and Paddy promising sincerely to hold back and not cause permanent damage. Meeks, a rapper friend of Paddy's, was present as a guest, adding to the event's atmosphere and hype. The spar began with the troll attempting aggressive moves like kicks, upward elbows, and even a takedown attempt outside the cage, which Paddy allowed and actually praised for showing effort and courage. Paddy responded with carefully measured strikes, focusing on body shots that winded the troll quickly while demonstrating the massive, unbridgeable gap in skill and conditioning between an amateur and a professional. He went noticeably easy, using only one hand at times and giving the troll generous openings to strike back. Post-spar, the troll apologized sincerely for his online comments, showing genuine gratitude and admitting the profound reality check he'd just experienced. While this troll earned respect for actually showing up to face consequences, this next entitled streamer tried to intimidate a gym worker while hiding behind his entourage. Entitled Streamer vs. Bodybuilder. In January 2025, controversial YouTube and kick streamer King Sid found himself in an uncomfortable confrontation with a gym worker who simply refused to be intimidated by loud voices and aggressive posturing. King Sid, a content creator in his mid-20s known for his prank videos, reaction content, and well-documented history of escalating situations purely for views and engagement, was filming a workout session with his cameraman when the incident began to unfold. King Sid had built a reputation for cocky behavior online, often boasting about about his street credibility, referencing his prison experiences, and expressing willingness to fight anyone who challenged him, despite not having any professional fighting background whatsoever. He had been involved in previous dramas, including call-outs to actual UFC fighters and various public altercations, which he consistently used to boost his online presence and follower count. The spark that ignited this particular confrontation came from a remarkably simple policy violation. Sid's cameraman was not a gym member, wasn't actually working out, and was wearing jeans, which many gyms prohibit to prevent equipment damage and maintain safety standards. A gym worker, described in comments as calm and thoroughly professional throughout the encounter, approached politely and asked the cameraman to step outside or change his attire, explaining the basic rules about appropriate gym clothing. Sid immediately intervened with aggressive defensiveness, perceiving this completely reasonable request as some form of targeted harassment against him personally.
Then talk to him! Right. Talk to him then! I'm talking to you! No! Get out my face, bruh! Get on my face!
He started yelling insults at the worker, telling him to shut up, demanding he be kicked out, and questioning his authority to enforce any rules. The worker remained remarkably composed despite the verbal assault, walking away at first to avoid escalation. But Sid's persistent antagonism and continued insults eventually brought him back to address the situation. Sid escalated the confrontation further by getting directly in the worker's face, repeatedly invading his personal space while simultaneously demanding that the worker back off, a contradiction that wasn't lost on viewers. He suggested they go outside to fight, all while boasting loudly about his toughness and what he'd do if provoked further. The sequence peaked when the worker lightly pushed Sid after repeated close encounters and provocations. What became abundantly clear throughout the entire filmed incident was that Sid appeared genuinely intimidated whenever he found himself alone with the worker, relying entirely on his entourage for backup and displaying what commenters universally described as classic hold-me-back energy, yelling aggressively and making threats but never once following through without his group providing support and a safe escape route. While King Sid relied on his friends for backup, this next influencer thought his professional security team would protect him from a 260-pound bodybuilder's wrath. Young influencer with security pics on Bodybuilder. For our final entry, we return to a familiar face who seems to attract confrontations with overconfident individuals, Bradley Martin. On September 30th, 2023, during a chaotic livestream on Kick involving multiple creators including John Jerka and Steve Wildoit, set in Miami with activities spanning a yacht, strip club, and van rides, YouTuber and Kick streamer Jack Doherty made the spectacularly questionable decision to press Bradley Martin. Doherty, a 20-year-old at the time known for his provocative pranks, cryptocurrency promotions, and consistently controversial behavior, had built an estimated net worth in the millions from his content creation endeavors. He frequently surrounds himself with professional security personnel due to his wealth and extensive history of public altercations that his content style tends to generate. Doherty often acts tough online, calling out bigger names for clout and engagement, but relies heavily on bodyguards in real-life situations, earning him widespread criticism as someone who hides behind paid protection while talking recklessly. Bradley Martin, as we've established, is a massive 6 feet 3 inches, 260-pound fitness influencer with a background in serious strength training and occasional sparring, known throughout the influencer community for his calm but undeniably intimidating presence and willingness to confront trash talkers who cross certain lines. The incident started with Doherty pressing Martin, confronting him verbally and physically during the stream to generate exciting content and assert some form of dominance for his audience.
I can knock you out. Would you let me slap you once as hard as I could to see if you take it? Yeah, go for it.
Tension built throughout the evening from escalating banter about various luxury items, including a diamond chain valued at $70,000 to $100,000 that Martin playfully took from another participant named Neil, refusing to return it and joking about invoicing Doherty for the trouble. This exchange of expensive items escalated into direct insults, with Doherty trash-talking Martin's toughness and entire persona while feeling invincible behind his professional security guards. When Martin arrived at their location or engaged directly with the group, the confrontation turned genuinely heated in ways that clearly surprised Doherty. Martin got aggressive, and security personnel intervened to physically hold him back, with one guard explicitly indicating his reluctance to restrain the enraged bodybuilder, understanding the futility and danger of such an attempt. The situation crackled with tension as Martin warned that intervening would lead to consequences for the guards as well. Doherty continued attempting to provoke from what he perceived as a safe distance behind his protection, but when Martin pressed back directly and personally, Doherty froze completely. He displayed nervous habits like repeatedly stroking his hair and relied entirely on his entourage and security team to defuse the increasingly dangerous situation. No full physical fight occurred, but Martin's sheer size, genuine intensity, and clear willingness to escalate made Doherty visibly regret every taunt he'd thrown out. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, click on one of the boxes playing on your screen to watch more similar content.